So here we are, November already. Today it's a bit blowy, a bit windy, and it's cold, very cold. Winter is fast approaching us, and I'm amazed really to see the amount of greenery in the garden that we've still got. And I do expect to see quite a lot because I've got some evergreens, like the bamboo back there. But the rest of the garden is looking good as well. So I'm just going to take a walk around the garden just to generally look over it as we go through. As you know, this is the gravel area. And this is a really nice area. And it's quite low maintenance, actually. There's not a lot to do other than play about with plants as and when I feel like it, because I like to change things all the time, as you know. Move things around. And a little bit of maintenance in dividing them. And the usual things that you do at this time of year. So don't forget November, it's a good time to move things. The soil really is still warm enough to do that as well. This looks great now. And I did this area a couple of months back, if you remember. It's settling in nice now as well. That's Yucca rostrata in that tin there. I made that actual pot out of some corrugated tin. And it's looking good. And it's not going to stay here. I've just put it here really for a bit of winter protection, because it is quite protected here in this area. The seats look nice today. Through the lens it looks really nice because the sun's shining on it. But it's pretty cold. So this is all doing okay. Now it's not long once you get the autumn colours that leaves like these fall very quickly, and I did say that. I did say once the colours come in, it'll be literally a week and after 2 weeks and the colours will be gone. And there you go, they're all over the place. This is an Acer. And it's beautiful. And there's a euonymus, which has been moved around a couple of times in the past year and a half since I bought it, but it's ended up back in the same bed. And it does tend to hold on to its leaves a lot longer than the Acers, and will continue to do so for quite a while yet, maybe a couple of weeks, which in gardening terms is quite a while. Kathy's arbour seat's looking great. And here we are again. Another Acer that's lost its leaves very quickly. As I said, once we get past that best of the colour, they just seem to drop. And that's just what they've done. Now, here's a good reason for having a bamboo, if ever there was a reason. On days like today, these bamboos just look great. And that's the Thamnocalmus type. And the one I stripped, if you remember, back in the summer. And it's starting to look good now because it's got all its growth, as I said it would. I knew it'd get the leaves back. And it does look terrible when you first do these things. They look absolutely terrible when you cut and thin out a bamboo. But it's worth doing, because this is what we get later on. We get the leaf that regrows, or actually pushes out more as it goes through. So it develops nicely like this. And overall, that is a lovely look, actually. I can see I'm going to have to do some splitting of this because I don't want it to come too far across this path. And I think you can see that will do. And as we walk past it, we do tend to catch that. So what I do is I tend to edit these things and I tend to move them. I tend to move them away from the paths by taking splits, really. A little bit of damage there. One's got snapped. Don't forget we've had a real bad storm about 3 weeks ago, and this is the tail end of another one that's just gone through that we didn't really get. Oh, this is looking nice. Look at that. That's Actaea simplex. And this particular one is James Compton, and that's the seed head. It's really nice, that. But purple tones in that, actually. So some of the winter colours are coming in now. or that should be autumn colours really, but they're doing okay. And we've got some of the hellebores now starting to come up. Actually, that one's starting to show its flower already. And don't forget, we're not far from hellebore season through the winter. And I do have a few. I'm letting them self-set around, to be honest. I just want them to do their own thing. As you can see, no telegraph poles yet. Still haven't got them. And part of that reason is I've delayed is because I've had a bit of trouble with my arms. It's not an excuse, it's a fact. So I've tried to give them a rest. That's the trouble with gardening. You wear your body out way too soon. This is finally coming into its autumn colours. It's an Acergryzium. I love Acergryziums. If you're looking for a small tree, you're not going to go wrong by having this one in your garden. It's a stunner. It's got a lot to offer as well. And it can become a 15, 20 foot tree. But I've not seen many. The biggest I've seen in the UK is about 12 foot. But they stay very, very squat and small. And if you mess about with them like I do, I prune these things to keep them smaller, then you can maintain quite a small size for its entire life, really. And that's nice. And this is the paperback maple, as you can see. So it has that really, really nice looking, what would we call that? Dishevelled look, I think I'll call that. But it's starting to get some really nice autumn colours. I don't know if that's coming through on the camera, so let's put my finger there, that'll focus it. So there you go. So that's a really nice one to have if you want a small tree. So this Miscanthus Lutaria riparius is looking fantastic now. And again, this type of weather suits it down to the ground, because this is really why you grow it. Or why I grow it anyway. For that movement and that sound. And grasses offer something that a lot of plants can't, and that's movement and sound. And bamboos do the same. I mean, look at that bamboo there, it's going crazy in this wind. Not a lot to do in here now, just a little bit of weeding. I've not really been in here much this year, because I've had so much else to do. This is the nook. And you may have noticed, I've not really done the video on it yet, you may have noticed we can now see the old school again. They came and did a pruning on the hedge in front of it, which was, they must have took 20 foot off the edge, and that's fantastic now. So we get to borrow that landscape now, and that's lovely. So we'll come out of the nook and we'll go back up here to start with. Let's have a look what's happening up here. It's all looking good in general. There's still colours to come in, still autumn colours to come in. It's looking good. And I must say, I'm very, very impressed how quickly the grass grew on this new section when I put it down. But I did put some fast-growing grass down because I needed it to kick in before winter did. And it's done just that. It needs to thicken up, obviously. I do have some more grass seed that I can spread on that, but to be honest, that'll take care of itself. The wildlife dip pool's looking great, but it's so full of weed on the right-hand side there. And I suspect the almost cotton wool looking weed there came in with the actual plant that I bought to oxygenate it, and it just must have had a little bit in it. It's now taking over, so I'll deal with that over winter, and I shall probably remove all of that, clean it up, and just put back in the bit I bought. And there's the school again. Looks great from here. The shack always looks great. In fact, I think we'll take a walk up this way. Up onto the boardwalk. Little look at the grasses. So I say at this time of year, they come into their own. Sorbus looks fantastic. That's going to be some good food for the birds. They tend not to go for this one straight away. This is about third in the pecking list, I think, or the pecking order. They leave that one alone for now. The boardwalk border is looking good at the minute, actually. Yeah, it's looking really nice. Now, I don't clear away any of this until at least January. I leave it all alone. There's absolutely no point. I leave everything for the insects so that the birds can come in and feed on the insects. So I urge you to leave your stuff alone, your plants alone, and let it look rough, because it still has a beauty all its own. Another Helleborrhea. That one's Argutifolia. That's looking nice. And then, can you believe viburnum? Now, this was here when I got here, this viburnum. I've done some pruning on it. Is that branch there that's leaning this way? This one here needs to come out. Several others. I've been working on it for 3 years, but we're getting there. And it's producing flowers. As you can see there, this is its time. Only little ones, but they do pack a punch. They have a lovely scent to them. So that's a lovely viburnum. And I believe it to be Bodnan Tense Dawn, but I can't be sure on that because I didn't buy it. Miscanthus is looking good through there. Those seed heads are amazing. Massive as well. There must be 10 inches. There's a little bit of weeding to do here. We all get lost sometimes and forget about the weeding, but needs doing even through winter. And I'm not going to tackle this at the moment. I'm just going to leave it alone. This buddleia still got a flower on it. Look at that. I think it's Lockinch. I can't be sure because I took this as a cutting from a garden years ago and put it here. It's in the wrong place, to be honest. Is it falling over? That looks like it's falling over. Yeah, it's in the. It's got blown over in the last storm as well. So I said I would take cuttings off of it anyway before I finally move it, and because these buddleias don't move very well if they get to this size, they tend to die away. But you can take hardwood cuttings at this time of year, so we've got some good cutting material here. So I shall take some cuttings off that, and I think I'll move it because it's been blown over anyway, and it's not in the right spot. That bamboo's looking great. I'm now at a point where it's really going to go for it. Next year it is really going to grow quick. And it's not a runner, it's a clumper. It's a very large clumper and a fast clumper, and it's going to be absolutely ideal here. And I have to remind myself that this is why I put it in here. I wanted it to actually give me some privacy on that deck there. And it's only still 6 foot, but I expect it to go up at least another 3 foot next year. And it's thickening out lovely now, clumping really nice. And this is the type of bamboo that would actually make quite a nice hedge. You can clip it like a hedge. I'm not going to do that. I'm leaving it as it is because it's going to give me that privacy. A little bit of a mess down here, really. Bits and bobs all over that have got damaged. We've had quite a bit of storm damage. I've sorted most of it out, but some of it still remains. It's a euphorbia, that yellow looking one there. It's palustris, it's called the marsh euphorbia. Prefers a wetter area than it's got, but it's doing really well. And it takes on these lovely pinky tones in the stem and also yellowy in the leaves, and it's looking nice. In fact, it's looking very nice at the minute. So everything's looking good from this perspective. There, we get a better look at the wildlife dip pools now and that weed that's causing a problem. Now, I'm no pond expert, so I don't know what that weed is. I just know it's a very aggressive weed and there's too much of it. Way too much. So I need to remove that. We've had a play about with this area this year and I've changed some of the planting because it wasn't working. And I've moved bits and bobs. So now again, it's a bit of a waiting game again till next year to see if the changes we've made work, and if they don't, then I shall change them again. And I'm never afraid to change anything, and you shouldn't be. You should, if it's not working, change it. If you think it's going to work and you do, change it, and it doesn't work, change it again. So this is going to cause me a problem, and this is Corylus avellana contorta, and it's one of the last. Well, I'm calling this a small tree. It's a shrub and a small tree. And it drops its leaves quite late on. And now I've got the wildlife dip pools there, it will absolutely fill them. So what I'm going to do, what I intend to do, is I'm going to get myself a net and net over this area, and then as the leaves drop, I shall move them and pull them away and keep putting the net back over to catch them, because it takes quite a long time for this one to drop its leaves. It seems to do it over about a month and a half. But I've been fairly lucky in the past because it has dropped the leaves and they've all blown towards the edge. So I've always been lucky with it. But, you know, sod's law, I've put a pond here now, and you just know they'll all fall into there and clag it up, and I don't want that. As you can see now, this is more of a pond than a dip pool. There's 3 of them, really. I class the dustbin lid as one of the dip pools, and then the other 2, which are true dip pools, are supposed to be separate, but because we've had so much rain, it hasn't stopped really. For over 2 weeks we've had just loads of rain, and it's made that more of a pond, and it's quite attractive like that. I quite like it. It was never the idea was always for it to be 2 separate ponds. And if you remember back, I had an owl land on the left hand side there, and it was bathing in the summer. Caught it on the camera. So yes, there's a lot of greenery still. I've had a little jiggle around in this area again, and I've moved that hydrangea in the background. You probably just make it out there. And I moved that sometime back from up the top of the garden, moved it down here, and I've moved it again to there because that's probably the best place for it. Notice this persicaria, and it just seems to keep going. And it's in quite a dark area, really. Quite a shaded area, but it just seems to keep flowering. And that's Persicaria Blackfield, and it's a really nice one. I do really like that one. I've got several Persicarias, but that one just seems to keep flowering. Oh, finally behind. That Melinia, that's Windspiel, is coming to its autumn colours. You've got to remember, once Melinia's coming to the autumn colours like that, they're probably going to last another 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks, and then you'll come out one day and they'll have all fallen to the ground. And then all you do is just pick it up, put it in the bin. Oh no, we've got a bit of a major problem here. We've got a few. Oh, hang on a minute. Look at that, I thought it snapped. My roses. I did some pruning. I forgot about that. So I pruned this up because it had way too many branches coming out to the left as we're looking at it now. And I removed them because I want these to look really nice, these hips. And they were a lot better last year, but there was a lot less of them. And the more hips you have, obviously, the smaller they're going to become. And I don't know whether they're going to take on those lovely reddy orange colours. They are starting, but they've been doing that for quite a while. So let's hope that kicks in. We shall see. Time will tell on that one. Generally, it's looking quite good from here. And yes, we're keeping the grass. Something I tell you to take out all the time, but sometimes it's the right thing to leave. And in this case, that's what I'm doing. I think that box edging really does look good. I've got a bit of an advantage with that box edging because it was already quite big when I took it out from another area. And I've already started shaping it, and it just really suits it. But I always remember that I've got to get past these things, especially when I'm mowing the lawn. I have to remember I've got to get the lawnmower past that, so never to bring it too far in. Always give yourself a good bit of space to get through. I've done it in previous gardens where I've never ever given myself enough space and made the paths very skinny. And I guess you tend to, as a sort of an amateur, you tend to favour putting borders in, and you forget about access paths and maintenance paths. This is a maintenance path. Hamish the cat loves running up and down here. He gets a good exercise down here. This is looking good. I still haven't screwed that back together yet. Still there, look. Life's too short to worry about that. We will get round to it. This area's looking nice now. We've had a bit of a jiggle around, and the quarry tile path has been a bit of a success, I guess. It's looking really nice. Still not sure about this Stipa gigantea. You can see there, lovely, lovely seed heads, but they look huge, and I would prefer one called Gold Fontaine or Pixie, which will be more in keeping for this area, and I'm more upright than them ones. I want the seed heads to go further up, stick up in the air more. These look like they may be a bit fountainous, but let's not judge it, because that was a late season one that's coming up. But they're massive, the seed heads. They're not usually that big, and it is a seed raised one, so it's one I took from an area, actually at an old garden centre I used to work at, and it's seeded everywhere, so I selected some seedlings. This wasn't the best, but this was the only one that survived, so here it is. We'll give it time, see where it does. There's Miscantha's memory bouncing about. This is lovely. It's got a lovely silvery seed head, and it really is nice, that one. And I keep saying you should all get this one, and you should, because it has that lovely autumn colour in its leaf, and then it has these beautiful seed heads, and they blow quite well as well, so they fluff up like candy floss. But when they're at this stage, they're very, very silvery. When they first come out, they're pink. Hard to believe now, but a month and a half ago they were pink. Okay, look at this. That's that sorbus that I ranted and raved about early in the year. And it's obviously not at its best yet, because it's not tall enough. But that's an indication of what we've got to come in the future. And once this becomes a bigger tree, it's going to look fantastic. It is a small growing tree, actually. But once it becomes a bigger tree, we're going to get a lot nicer look on that. And that's called Olympic Flame. Now you can see why it's called Olympic Flame now. And all sorbuses look good in autumn. They all have a beautiful leaf colour. The Carl Forster, the Calamagrostis behind it, again, look, that's been like that for months now. If you look back on some of my videos, you'll see how long that's been looking like that, and it still looks good. And as winter progresses, we'll lose more and more of the actual stalks and the seed heads. They'll sort of almost shatter, and we'll lose a few, and there'll be some left by January. And then as we get to mid-January, maybe February, we shall take it all down. It'll all be gone, and it'll all start again. I love it. This aster's doing well still. That's Aster Monk. Beautiful. Still flowering. But generally things are starting to fall apart now, and as we enter winter, it's going to do that again. It's going to do it even more. Everything's going to fall to bits. And as I said earlier, I shall leave it. I will not touch them. I'll leave them for the insects to overwinter in, and then the birds will find their way in there, and they will come in and peck away at the little critters. And hopefully that'll encourage them to come back in the spring and summer and pick out even more little critters that want to destroy me plants. Polo's working, definitely working. And the roses are starting to now cover all that area around them. I've been messing about with them, but they're looking pretty good now. I reckon another year and a half and that will be completely clothed in leaf. And then you'll have to walk up to the little window that I call the Polo and look through it. And it'll look great. I mean, it looks good now when you look through it. This is Ruth glabra, looking good now. It looks better. We're past the stage where it had lots of oranges in. It's going into more of a yellow. And then the leaves will just fall. They're already falling now, to be honest. As you can see at the base there. Yeah, they're falling, and there's a couple of suckers in there that I'm going to be taking out. There's my little nursery area. Looking good. Oh, look, if you look in the top window up there, there's Hamish watching me. Let's see if we can zoom in on him. There he is. Looking at me. Okay, so there you go. And I'll talk to you on the next one. Ta-da!